Boom! We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. We're back at it for another episode of the positional preview breakdown. I've been doing it every single year for the past couple of years. Again, I'm going to do my best to get to every single position group and find the time to do so. Admittingly, it's going to be quite difficult, but still, crazier things have been done. I'm still going to try and get to it. So this one, I'm not going to share the screen. I'm just going to do a verbal overview. We're going to be previewing the tight end group for the Iowa Hawkeyes. We're kind of sticking with the offense. This is an interesting position group, mainly because there's some guys that are will be some of the main guys on going into the season that have kind of been around and definitely seen some snaps. Zach Ortworth, more or less. He's still, I would consider, a younger up-and-coming guy. Next year, I would consider him, after this upcoming year, more of a veteran guy. Addison Ostrenga feels like he's been around forever, but yet at the same time, it's like he just got here. And I remember, like it was yesterday, reviewing his commitment to the Iowa Hawkeyes, because the Iowa Hawkeyes, when Brian Ferentz was still at Iowa, this was during the COOF year, where it was hard to get guys on campus and do kind of the traditional recruitment. I believe it was the 2020 recruiting class. Iowa had actually swung and missed on a few tight end prospects. One of them was Micah Riley Ducker from the state of Nebraska. He went to the same high school as Keegan Johnson, Bellevue West. Iowa was seen as a favorite to land him. He ended up going to Auburn, and of course has transferred out of Auburn, so it didn't quite work out there. And Iowa also missed on a state of Wisconsin tight end, Andrew Keller, high 3-star prospect. And Micah Riley Ducker was also a high 3-star, but I would say probably the most recruited of the two. And then Iowa had a kid that was committed to play baseball in Addison Ostrenga, and they had him on campus. He was obviously an athlete, had great size at 6'5", and they offered him. He was the lone offer. He committed immediately. He ended up being rated as an 87. I feel like every tight end that Iowa gets, whether it's late in the process, whether it's a hidden gem, whatever the case may be, they end up being rated decently well, just because of the respect that these recruiting services and just the football world in general has for the University of Iowa at the tight end position. So obviously Addison Ostrenga is the big name to watch. I am really curious to see what he can do in a full-time role. Coming out of high school, this is what was written about him. Played split out in high school and showed the ability to run routes and catch the ball like a receiver. Looked a little bit faster and more sudden as a senior. Showed run after the catch ability and acceleration, and also got stronger, which showed up in his blocking. Will have to adjust to playing on the ball, and we assume with his hand down more, although he is going to be able to continue to split out and stand up in the slot if schools need him to. Former baseball commit who shows athleticism, coordination, and has good upside as a tight end prospect. Has some weight room work to do, but ceiling is high. And I think that has continued and been pretty spot on, although his blocking is actually, I would say at this point, what he's more valued as at the University of Iowa. But he's basically held true to that. As I pull up some of the other individuals on the roster, obviously Zach Ortworth, I do think it's important to note the whole Tim Lester aspect of things and his offense. You know, people have done articles and videos on whether the tight end position is dying at the University of Iowa, with Tim Lester's offense. I think time will tell. I think at this point, from what we have seen, I don't think it's going to be quite as much of an emphasis. But then again, it's kind of hard to judge it because of how Iowa was still incorporating the new passing offense, the new route tree, and that extends everywhere, not just the wide receivers. It extends to the running backs and the tight ends. So it's hard to give a full proof answer on how much Tim Lester wants to use or not use the tight ends. For me, I think it would be silly of Tim Lester not to continue to use the tight end position, especially in this day and age with guys like George Kittle. What we've seen Iowa do themselves and various other NFL programs. A really strong tight end can be massive for your offense and your offense's ability to get out of tight spots. Have a guy that can go and get you first downs and really move the chains. It is the one position, that and offensive line, for the University of Iowa that has some cachet, some prestige, as it were. So I think it would be silly if they went away from it, because at this point Iowa is still recruiting the tight end position at a really high level, which means that they're bringing in really highly talented athletic guys at the position. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And then, of course, there's Zach Ortworth. Before that, Zach Ortworth was brought in the 2023 recruiting class. He was a high 3-star, 88. I think he would have been rated higher had he not got injured in high school. He had a lot of Power 4 offers coming out of St. Louis University. I really like him. I think he's high upside as well. And I like that he's going to be paired with Addison Ostrenga. Again, is he going to be more of a tight passing option, down the field option? That's what it seemed like. He seems like he's more of a downfield target, especially in comparison to Addison Ostrenga. Can he develop his blocking skills? Time will tell with that. Iowa did also bring in that class Grant Leeper as a gray shirt, and he was actually ranked as an 89. The recruiting services really liked him, especially with his basketball background, and unfortunately he transferred out after 2 years, I believe. Just didn't really seem to catch on at the University of Iowa, so he is gone. And then we go to the 2024 recruiting class, and Iowa landed probably their highest level guy, Abdul Hodge, who has been recruiting well. Gavin Hoffman out of Blue Valley Northwest, who ended up being rated as a 92, top 250 prospect, 4-star, 12th rated tight end. And he did end up transferring to Missouri, which it is a miss, just from the fact that this guy had everything you look for in a tight end. 6'5", 40-inch vertical leap. He was noted as having coming out of high school, and he said when he came out of high school that he wanted to go to a place he could be developed, whether he had to wait and learn, whatever the case may be. That is what he wanted to do. And of course, that's not what ended up happening in reality. He sat for 1 year and transferred out. Now, Iowa also brought in, and if you guys remember, I said that when I gave my analysis of these two guys, because this was a really good tight end class again for Abdul-Hajj, Michael Burt out of the state of Nebraska, I said that he would be further along because of his ability to block. He came from Creighton Prep in the state of Nebraska, was a big recruiting win over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. He was primarily used to blocking. He just had more size, more physicality, and I knew for the University of Iowa that would work out for them, for him rather, much quicker en route to getting some playing time. So he's another name to watch. I do like him. I think he's going to be the next one of the next starting tight ends for Iowa. That's how it's looking right now. In that class also, I believe Iowa brought in a preferred walk-on in, let's see, DJ, Vanavu. I'm going to say his name right just so people know that I'm willing to make some changes, although, because people always get on me about the last names. I think that's absolutely absurd and still think that to this day. But let's see where he's at. DJ Vanavua, DJ Vanakana. But this is a guy that the coaches seem to like. We've heard some good things. I don't know if he's on scholarship yet. But I'm not surprised by that based on what we were hearing about him coming out of high school. Iowa always has really solid preferred walk-ons, guys that, you know, would be able to play Division I elsewhere, but they maybe don't have opportunities to play high major Division I. Here we go.
DJ Vonami.
There we go, DJ Vonami. So 6'4", 240 pounds. So we've been hearing about him. So those are the two guys in that class. And then in the next class, last year, we had 4-star Thomas Meyer, who is the highest rated guy that Iowa has had at the tight end position. It depends on what recruiting service you use, but he was rated as a 94 by 247 Sports and 9th. Now some schools were looking at him at defensive end. You know, Iowa's bringing him in as a tight end. I think that's the right position for him. He's just an athlete, plain and simple. He's a little skinny at 210 pounds. But, you know, again, Abdul-Hajj really recruiting well. This is definitely a name to watch. Iowa won this recruiting battle over Iowa State. It came really down to the wire, and it was actually a really good get for Iowa at the time. They had missed on a few prospects, and so it was really, for the class in general, it was a good get, but specifically the time that he committed, it was a much needed commitment and not necessarily a slam dunk that he was going to commit to Iowa. The other prospect is Eli Johnson out of Wisconsin, who has a grade of an 89 by 247 Sports, high 3-star, 29th rated tight end. And a lot of people were saying that they were stunned that he was even allowed to come out of the state of Wisconsin without Wisconsin offering him or you know, securing his commitment. I mean, he did have offers from Iowa State, Kansas, Michigan State, Minnesota, Missouri, Purdue, Vanderbilt, West Virginia. So he had some nice offers. Just Wisconsin was just not one of them. And that's what we've been hearing is people are stunned, especially Tyler Barnes. They were stunned that they were able to go to the state of Wisconsin and take him out of the Badger State. So he's a name to watch. They really like his athleticism. And then Mason Woods, the son of LeVar Woods, he's a little bit undersized at 6'1", 6'2". He had a grade of an 88. Again, a really nice tight end haul. I can't state it enough. Abdul-Hajj, as I knew would be the case when he was named tight ends coach at Iowa. I said he would be a good recruiter, and true to form, he has been. Just looking. But with regards to Mason Woods, I wanted him to come in as a wide receiver because that's where I saw the need a little bit more, especially immediately, and even long term, really. Actually, maybe not even immediately. Actually, more long term, just to get another guy in there. And looking at his size, I more saw him as a wide receiver. But there are guys, and he's listed as 6'2", 217 pounds on Iowa's website. George Kittle's only 6'3". I mean, there are tight ends that are a little bit shorter that play bigger than their height indicates, and there are guys that are taller that play smaller than their height indicates. Time will tell what he is and how physical he is. Whether he plays bigger than his size, or whether he turns out to be more of a passing threat, like a Noah Fant, a shorter version of a Noah Fant. I think at this point, that's probably what he is more of a Noah Fant. But it would be nice to see. I'm hoping that he can become more akin, because it would be more helpful to Iowa. Not necessarily George Kittle's time at Iowa, just what he's turned into overall. It would be more beneficial to Iowa if he can become more well-rounded, more physical, even with his size, than if he's just more of a passing threat. But, you can still make it work just as a passing threat. We've seen that, with guys that get drafted super high, first round. There's the Florida tight end that went first round. I mean, there are guys that are just so athletic at the tight end position that defenses still can't stop them, even though they know that he's not really going to block. And if he's in, you're likely in a passing down. So, but again, it would be better for him, better for Iowa if he's able to develop that kind of all-encompassing game. So, but for what it's worth, don't be surprised if he changes positions. I still do think he's a little bit undersized, and I think he would actually, for some of the same reasons that you could say for wide receiver, actually maybe not the same reasons, but for him to play tight end, you could say, well, he's an athletic threat at the tight end position. He's a mismatch against linebackers and moving the chains and getting downfield, and that's fair. But at the wide receiver position, if he's bigger and he does have some of that physicality, maybe not enough to play tight end, but more so than most wide receivers, he could be strong at blocking as a wide receiver, and he could be more of like X outside wide receiver, a Brandon Smith type, because Brandon Smith was 6'3". I think in this day and age, for a true outside wide receiver, you're looking for a guy that's at least 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". If you look at Iowa, like, their outside guys, Reese Vanderzee, 6'4". They brought in preferred walk-on. I know this isn't the wide receiver preview yet, but Dylan Stecker, 6'4". Terrence Smith is really highly regarded, high 3-star, low 4-star out of the state of Illinois from this last class. He's 6'4", so that's kind of the size you're looking for. But still, I do think at the wide receiver position, Mason Woods could be utilized in that manner. A very physical, strong, sturdy, 215-pound wide receiver on the outside, getting it done. So, but anyways, guys, that is the tight end preview. I think next I will do wide receivers. We've done quarterback. We've done running back. And I will try and share the screen next time. Like I said, I just wanted to get this video out there, get this cut and posted on my channel so you guys can see who Iowa's working with at all the positions. Yeah, Terrence Smith is 6'3". Yeah, I think again the X wide receiver, I think at this point minimum 6'3" is kind of the on the low end, but again I think more like 6'4", 6'5", maybe even 6'6" at times is kind of what they're looking for. That like possession, go up and get it, end zone threat. Wide receiver that can win a bunch of jump balls and things like that. And would Mason Woods be that type of guy at wide receiver? Maybe not vertically, but he could be a physical wide receiver that's able to get into space and at the line of scrimmage be physical with guys, be stronger than guys because he's used to playing defense. He played linebacker in high school and tight end as well. So we'll see what happens with Mason Woods. But just to round this out, I expect this to be a solid position group. I think that this is a group that can really propel Iowa forward this upcoming year. I think Addison Ostrenga and Zach Ortworth will obviously be the main guys, with Michael Burt being and maybe DJ being some guys if there's injuries or whatever that thrust them into action. That could give some serviceable snaps and reps. But this is a group that we've seen some good things, especially with Ortworth and Ostrenga, but we haven't seen them become like good or elite within the Big Ten. They've been serviceable, they've done what they've needed to do, but they haven't been like the highlight of the offense. So I'm curious to see what this looks like in Tim Lesser's offense in year 2, and I'm curious to see if these guys can take the step forward and propel this offense forward, because it will just make it that much easier for Gronowski and this offense. And quite frankly, if these guys do what they need to do, I see Gronowski going to them and targeting them all the time. Gronowski just seems like a guy that targets tight ends a lot, So, and you do need, yes, you need big plays, but you need guys that can consistently go out there and help you move the chains. The in between the 20 to the 20. You need guys that can help you do that. So I have high hopes for this position group. I think that this can be possibly the best position group on the offense. At this point going into the year, it's probably offensive line. Some people would throw the quarterback in there. I'm not willing to do that quite yet. I expect Gronowski to be solid, but I don't know that I would say the best for the offense. I just need him to be serviceable. The running backs, you could make a case for them. But I would say at this point, I would put tight end and offensive line as the two best position groups on offense going in to this upcoming season. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to smash that subscribe button, like, comment. Y'all know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. Facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. I love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.